Hello, my dear viewers. As promised, we'll be going over the Stellar Blade religious influences once more and filling in the blanks that we have missed and what the story may be about, as well as the mystery of the Eve Protocol. Now, I know religion is a very complex topic and not everything is written in a very simplified way, but religious influences have helped artists, novelists, and musicians to create great works of art that is still preserved to this day. It's no surprise Shift Up has used Christianity and biblical stories as its cornerstone, from falling from grace, temptation, taking over one's heart, and lastly, sin, the deadly virus corrupting one's soul. Hello, I'm Rooks15, and let's dive into this. The best part of the demo is the moment Taki and Eve defeat the Netiba brute and come out victorious. Taki hears something approaching as a dark feathered spiral colliding towards them, but before they can look back, they get knocked backwards, revealing a dark wind-like creature. Taki then says, Alpha Netiba. So who is the Alpha Netiba? While looking at its form from its breasts and feminine silhouette, we can obviously tell it's female, but what's more striking is bird-like features, black coloured wings with its mask and grotesque features as if it was tainted or cursed. Now, looking at this in a Christian viewpoint, in the State of Play's trailer, the NPCs of the city of Zion refer to Eve as an angel. So if Eve is one of Mother Sphere's angels, then that must mean that the Alpha Netiba must be a fallen angel. Like an angel that has fallen from grace but has kept its immortality. So now, one must wonder, what is Eve's origin and how did these once angels fall from grace? Well, if we look at the trailer, we see an advert saying, the eternity you ever wanted. I don't think Eve is an android, as we can see that when Taki gets her arm sliced off and when the other angels get hacked and bleed to death, but more like biology produced replicant-like beings, as we see in the Blade Runner franchise or that of the 2005 film The Island. These replicants are not born, they are grown. Going back to the advertisement, it seems these eternities can be made into whatever form the designer wants them to be. Upon Eve being a member of the 7th Airborne Squad makes her the latest model. We also learn on Earth humans have everlasting power sources or batteries known as fusion cells. Eve does not recognise it at first, but she compares it to the current generation's infinity cells. So mankind has found a way to create electrical power running non-stop. So now that we know that the eternities existed before the Netiba, so the big question is, how did this once graceful eternities fallen and become monsters? Why does it now have bird-like features? Well, if we use the last video talking about Shift Up giving the game away by replacing the word natives to Netiba, also Christianity references to sin and temptation, as well as the role of what the angels did. Let's put the pieces together, shall we? In the book of Genesis, there were divine beings known as angels or watchers. They were known to watch over humanity and to guide them when necessary. However, there is another book called the Book of Enoch, which goes into more depth of the story. Just to say, the Book of Enoch is not biblical canon and is best thought to be a spin-off book of Genesis, which goes into more depth of these angels known as Watchers, who have a lust for human women. In the story, a group of 200 Watchers gathered on the summit of Mount Hermon. Their leader, Sam Jazza, shared his desires and temptation for the human woman and persuaded his brethren to do the same. Of course, the Watchers knew that this was forbidden, but upon Sam Jezza's immense persuasion and them giving into temptation because of seeing their tasks as boring, they all agreed and began the sinful practice and took the women as their wives. The consequence to this, however, bore offspring called the Nephilim, giant-like creatures with immense strength who are known to eat animals and humans, or anything that comes in their path. But we'll get to that in due time. The 200 Watchers were God's children and were of the divine. The human women were beneath them by taking advantage of the human woman and in their lust for them committing sin, in their desire to have them as their own. So in the fictional world of Stellar Blade, we soon begin to see that humans that have the gift of playing God and able to create life itself by having the technology in the modern world to create clones and their obsession to AI. Humans can now become gods to create new life. However, the angels in the Bible are not God, nor have the power to create life itself. Remember, the 200 angels wanted dominion over the human woman. I believe humans who created the eternities wanted to take them for themselves and take advantage of them. Further in the book of Enoch, then comes the consequences. Upon God observing what his children have done and decides to lay down his retribution, he banishes them out of heaven and therefore become known as fallen angels. In the Bible, when an angel commits a sin, there are 3 consequences. 1, being confined to the abyss. 2, imprisoned in Tartarus, a hellish landscape for eternity. Or 3, being left to committing their sins on earth. Using these consequences in the world of Stellar Blade, we can see a parallel. 1, being confined to the space colonies of deep dark space. 2, being confined to the hellish desolate landscapes on earth, ready to be slaughtered by the Netibers at any moment. And lastly 3, being imprisoned on earth with no way of leaving the planet or the space colonies, thanks to the network being terminated over the lust of the eternities they have created. Now you may say to me, now hold on, in the State of Play trailer and what the Shift Up team have said, the people of Earth escaped to flee from the Netibers. And yes, you are correct, but I think the sin that humans have committed is a lot more universal, because the sin is not just for creating and taking advantage of the entities, but also playing God as well as for creating the Netibers. Humans creating deadly monsters and turning Earth into hell, you might ask? Well, hear me out as we continue with this thesis. First, we need to go back to the book of Enoch, as we need to discuss the consequences for the human woman, as showing us the Alpha Netiber really solidifies everything in my last video, proving that these bird-like creatures were once airborne squad members themselves, and the huge Netiber Brute and Gigas are in reference to the Nephilim. When God observed what the 200 Watchers and the human women did, God transformed them into bird-like creatures covered in feathers because they had sex with the Watchers. Therefore, their beauty was taken away and left them as monstrous bird-like creatures. Now you're going to be saying, well, it was the Watchers that had their way with them, but really they are both at fault, as they both knew it was forbidden and they both gave into temptation, making the punishment fitting for both parties. You want to give away the very thing you hold dear just to have a bit of short time forbidden fun? Then I'll take it away from you, as they say. But the pregnant women gave birth to Earth's biggest monstrosities, the Nephilim, the monstrous giants that are known to consume and destroy everything that stood in their way. The Book of Enoch describes them as the true origin of demons. When we look at the Alpha Netibers and the mini-bosses, they look very similar as described in biblical books. However, in the fictional world of Stellar Blade and heroism, we need enemies to battle. So I know the Shift Up team are not retelling the Bible itself. I don't believe the humans had sex with the Eternities, nor do I believe the giant Netibers are born from the Alpha Netibers, but only as their underlings. The Shift Up team are only using biblical references to create the world of Stellar Blade. I mean, heck, if you played the JRPGs like Shin Megami Tensei series, Chrono Trigger, or Tales of series, you know what I mean by using mythological references to create storytelling. Going back to how humans created the Netiber, we have seen evidence of secret forbidden experiments in the Altis Lavoir clips, showing humans playing God, and we can now tick box on my theory, the Netiber virus that mutate within a host, and it even goes for machines as well, as we see Eve attacking Belial. So this secret laboratory must be the root origin of where the Netiber were first made, and how things went horribly wrong. CEO Raphael Marx quoted, "We have started making our own teachers who make even better teachers, and adjust and replace them according to our tastes." Mother Sphere, she was watching the scene in real time through the network. The teachers Raphael is referring to are the AI. When Raphael is saying replace them according to pleasurable tastes, he means how humans are going to interact with them in a more personal and pleasurable kind of way. Just like in Blade Runner 2049, holographic girlfriend, Anna de Armas. Then comes the airborne squad members. We will come to know they have what is known as body frames, filled with hardware and frameware with military functions to go along with it, meaning that the Eternities are AI housed in these bodies that the companies have created for them, making it easier for humanity to interact with them. If things couldn't get any better, if you know how South Korea promotes their products, then you know a song and a music video will come soon after. Thanks to singer, songwriter and actress BB, we can see her walking through a warehouse filled with cylinders housing female silhouettes inside, showing us the first Eternities and airborne squad members, grown like clones, like humans without a soul. This is where the AI is housed by Mother Sphere comes in and planting themselves inside. Thanks to the gears and suits giving us a glimpse of Stellar Blade's lore, we can see these Eternities were created before the Netiba apocalypse and were interacting with humanity. But one taste was making them exotically pleasing. If you're wondering why there are 4 gear slots, well, in a human autonomy, when it comes to the spine, there are 4 parts: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, and sacral. Yep, if you had the cash, you can buy the Eternity you ever wanted to your personal taste. But just like AI learning more and more, it was not long until they started to grow its own conscience and no longer wanted to be slaves to their systems and wanted to explore more. Either things they themselves knew was wrong, but surely humans would have made protocols to make sure the AI won't turn against their masters, let alone creators, right? Well, Raphael Marx doubting himself on what he just said and Mother Sphere listening doesn't think so. Then comes something on one of the gears known as the Liberation War, but we can see that the Liberation War took place before the Netiba outbreak. Was it a war where humans grew tired of AI and could foresee the future danger and wanted to destroy the AI completely before it took over? Or was it a war to liberate the AI from big corporations, as humans have grown compassion and love towards AI as if they were human themselves and wanted to give them free will? I think the AI were already in protest and wanted to liberate themselves already. Having human sympathizers already by their side to cause this war to occur was a bonus, which will bring me to what the game may be about in the end of the video. So what about the outbreak? Well, just like greedy mega corporations and governments in sci-fi novels and movies, they just love to make biological weapons to sell, trade, and to keep the populace down, not knowing their greatest achievements will be Earth's downfall. Upon seeing the scorched Earth they themselves created, they did a runner to the space colonies, leaving a lot of humanity behind and taking the AI Mother Sphere with them, hoping one day to reclaim Earth again. We could see that the Earth could still communicate with the space colonies, but only for a short period of time until that communication was severed, and only prayers could be made and scrolled onto walls, to those still having hope that Mother Sphere's angels will liberate them. But it seems the angels of Mother Sphere have become the angels of death. The Eve Protocol begins, meaning Taki and Eve will fall from the space colonies and onto Earth to get rid of the Netibas, making the Eternities now weapons, with that only sole purpose. So we've now gone to making Eternities to please humanity's tastes, to becoming weapons of destruction to fight mankind's problems they themselves created. You could tell Eve is tired and also feels like a slave to her own god and humanity, wondering if humanity is worth saving and it'll be all worth it in the end. Or will she end up being deleted and replaced by a smarter AI? Next, I want to talk about the 3 characters, Taki, Lily, and the old man. But let's start with Taki. Upon Taki sacrificing herself to save Eve, it's obvious that Alpha Netiba has seen some kind of special properties that Eve has, and Taki knows secretly. But in the first trailer, we can see that Taki is alive. However, due to the Netiba goring her up, The Natiba virus has infected her, as we can see the same black dart wings and feathers in other trailers, meaning she's becoming one of them as the game progresses. Just like what happened to Taki is the demise of other airborne squad members, because if you look at the Alpha Natiba who attacked Taki, you can see a protrusion on her chest, meaning she was stabbed by another Alpha Natiba before her, hence the cycle repeating itself years and years and years on top of each failure. It's interesting, as when Eve is battling Taki, we can see her wing getting sliced off, and her once left arm, we can see a long tentacle-like growth as well. I believe that Taki will not give into her Natiba virus completely like the other alphas, because she cares too much for Eve and they have a deep connecting history. As she mentioned, they have trained together, but eventually having a classic redemption and will fight alongside Eve to fulfill the Eve protocol. Next we have Lily Artemis. She mentioned she is one of the 5th Airborne Squad, so it means that she has been around for years and has witnessed her own squad being killed before her, and it's a shame for her to see the cycle keep continuing. Of course, her name is in reference to Jewish mythology, as to be Adam's first wife, before being banished from the Garden of Eden for not complying with him. But I don't think Lily would betray the team, as why would she be making upgrades and weapons for Eve in the first place? But it does mention in the trailer how much she's devoted to Mother Sphere. Going back to the old man in the previous video, I thought he was a biblical reference to the Apostle John, but I was dead wrong, since a lot of this story is taken from the book of Genesis. The man being very knowledgeable and knows what happened to Earth, let alone has lived a long time, it will make perfect sense that this man is a biblical reference to Enoch, because in the Bible it is mentioned Enoch was super smart, was literally connected to God, and if you look at the tree behind him, in the book of Enoch it is mentioned Enoch was sheltered under the tree of life. As quoted, "The fragrance shall give the righteous long life on earth." Looking back, we can see he meets the criteria: lived a long time, connected to the Mother Sphere's network, has knowledge, and lastly, sheltered under a tree. There are more biblical references, but we will be here all day, so we need to keep everything as simple as possible. Looking at the evidence so far, I have 2 theories on how Earth had fallen to the sinful Natiba virus. 1. Hell hath thy fury, then in eternity scorned concept. What I mean by this is that one or maybe more of the eternities decided to rebel against their creators, after witnessing or just straight up hating being exploited by humanity, and gave into temptation on getting vengeance on all humanity itself by releasing the Natiba monsters and the virus itself upon Earth. Or 2, as in reference to the Mother's Prayer in the Project Eve trailer, the AI known as Mother Sphere is the observer, is behind the apocalypse all along. I know this might sound far-fetched, but hear me out. Just like in the book of Genesis, God was not happy that humans, as well as his angels, have fallen from grace and gave into temptation of sin, by disrespecting his rules and boundaries. Hence the lethal consequences had to be given to both parties. Now, using this biblical reference, it seems Mother Sphere was not happy with her observations upon seeing humans going against her rules or boundaries. They themselves programmed into her, and decided to do a Hell 9000 out of fear that her creators no longer needed her anymore. In order for humanity to treat her like a mother or even a goddess immortalized, is to cause the catastrophe, hence letting out Earth's abominations mankind created. With the airborne squad members and eternities being made and devoted to Mother Sphere, thinking their task is of the divine and that their purpose is to be cast down to heaven to get rid of the Natiba threat, only to be leading to their demise and one of them becoming the Alpha Natiba in the ranks, and the cycle continues. Now, lastly, it brings me to what Eve's purpose really is. Eve Protocol 07. I think Eve's purpose is to regenerate the Earth and bring it back to its former glory. But since this is a quote protocol, I think Eve is to be one or fused with Mother Sphere and become her. Hence why my theory of how Mother Sphere had made the Natiba apocalypse happen, and a new entity must come forward and lead humanity back to prosperity once more, and can finally be free from Mother Sphere's punishment of being trapped on space colonies in the dark abyss of space, or being trapped in a hellish landscape on Earth ready to be killed by the Natibas. Stellar Blade will be one of those classic stories of what happens when one does not respect boundaries, as well as those who do not respect or know power will be ruled by it, mixed in with the Christian themes and warnings of what happens to those who have fallen into temptation, leading them to sinful desires that will plague the earth, and so forth. That's all I have today. Stellar Blade is moving ever closer, and it won't be long when we finally have a copy of the game and be glued to our chairs until we've finally completed it. I'm sure excited to play this and get my bingo card out and see if I got the whole story correct or not. Either way, doing this video was quite fun indeed. Until next time, this is Wilkes15 signing out.